Welcome everybody to my next update on my action RPG. So in this update, I made a lot of progress. However, I'm gonna focus on the skill system. The reason is because the skill system is the system that I put the most time into. So it's very fleshed out now. All of the skills that you're gonna see are I made them in a systematic way, which means none of the skills have any custom code. They don't have any weird, custom individual code. All of them are following the same rules of the skill system, which makes it not only really easy to add new skills, but also, really fun to in the future. Once I enter the content phase, I'm gonna start adding, more skills. It's gonna be really fun to experiment with the parameters that I added. So now let's start with the projectile skills, which is the first type of skills that I implemented. So here I have a series of skills that I created specifically to test the new mechanics. So like I said before, you can mix and match any mechanics. These skills are only to showcase the specific properties of the projectiles now. So this first one is a ground targeted projectile. So this is the first type of projectile that can target the ground. Before, when you shoot a projectile, it only flew towards the direction of the cursor, and that was it. But now you can have ground targeted projectiles. They can have a range. They can have a spread, meaning if you shoot multiple projectiles, they're gonna spread around the area where you target in some kind of barrage. Also, the projectiles that target the ground can chain the same way that normal projectiles chain of enemies. The ground targeted ones do the same thing, so they're gonna be bouncing around instead of just going to linearly. They cannot pierce and they cannot bounce off walls, but they can chain. So that's one of the properties. Obviously, they cannot chain because the enemy is only hit by the projectile when it arrives, when it hits the ground. So let me show you real quick how that looks. So this noxious mixture is like a potion that you throw, and it inflicts poison. So you can see that it has an arc, which is also customizable. So that gives the illusion that is being thrown and is shown. And you can see that it hits the ground. Now this, since I'm wearing a debug ring, that gives me 5 projectile chains. So this projectile is gonna chain towards the nearest enemy if it finds one. So let's shoot it here, and you're gonna see how it chains. So you can see that it chains from one enemy to the next, and it also chains even if it doesn't hit an enemy first, like this. So there you can see the first functionality that I implemented, which is ground targeting and also chaining. Of course, you can mix and match with multiple things, but this is the first one that I'm gonna showcase. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this next skill is gonna showcase how projectiles can move. So this one, instead of flying directly in a linear fashion, is gonna spiral out from the player at a speed. So it's gonna create a circle, a spiral around the player, and it's gonna disappear after a certain duration. It also has a number of bounces, so this skill can bounce off walls. So this is what it looks like. You can see that it starts to spiral out of the player, and it also bounces off walls. Pretty cool interaction. Obviously, if you cast it very closely to the wall, it's gonna consume its bounces a lot faster. I can also make it so that bounces are infinite. However, I decided to not implement a skill with that property yet, but you can definitely do something like that. So this skill can hit multiple times the same enemy, and it doesn't have a cooldown. So the faster you attack, the more you can spawn. Obviously, since it requires a mace or a hammer, you're gonna have lower attack speed by default, simply because those weapon types attack slower. You can also add multiple projectiles to this. What's gonna do is gonna spawn the hammers slightly delayed from each other. So now you can have a delay between shots of the same cast. So that is the second ability to showcase the spiraling pattern on skills and projectiles. Okay, so in this next skill, I'm gonna showcase the Nova effect on projectiles. So this skill is gonna shoot 8 projectiles. However, they're gonna be shot in a nova around the caster. So instead of targeting the cursor or the target of the skill, they're gonna be distributed equally around the caster and shot outwards. Also, this skill has infinite pierces, so it's gonna pierce through all targets. So let me show you how that looks. You can see that it's spreading all the projectiles equally, and it's also shooting the first projectile towards your target, so you always hit something with the projectile. And it's piercing all targets. You can see that it even has a reddish impact effect, and that's because the effect of the impact is dependent on which damage type you have the highest. So since I'm dealing a lot more fire damage because of my weapons, of my gear, that's why it looks red when it impacts. I might change that in the future, but for now, you can see, pretty fun. So now let's move on to the next type of projectile. Okay, so in this next skill, I'm gonna showcase the next behavior on projectiles, which is erratic movement. So this skill is gonna shoot 3 projectiles. They're gonna move erratically, meaning they're gonna move randomly. They're gonna change direction randomly at random speeds and at random intervals. So this is gonna make them very unpredictable. This is a skill reminiscent of Spark from Path of Exile, if you played that game. Also, the projectiles bounce off walls infinite times. So this is what it looks like. You can see that the projectiles are spawned at a random place around the caster, not necessarily where you're aiming, but they're gonna fly off in random directions and they're gonna bounce as many times as possible until their duration ends, at which point they're gonna despawn. Of course, any modifiers to projectiles quantity and projectile speed is gonna affect all of these projectiles unless stated otherwise. There are some skills that don't allow multiple projectiles or don't allow chains, etc. Like I said, everything is customizable. So this is the erratic movement on projectiles, the next type of behavior that I implemented. So let's get into the next skill. Okay, so in this next skill, I'm gonna showcase the next projectile behavior. So this skill is gonna shoot a projectile that pierces all targets, just like before. However, this projectile does not deal damage on impact. And what it does is that it creates a pulsing area of damage around it. So that means that targets can get hit multiple times by the same projectile. So this is what it looks like. You can see that the targets are getting hit more than once on its path. That means that if you have slower projectile speed, targets are gonna remain longer inside the area of the projectile, and thus they're gonna get hit more. So this is another skill that I tried to replicate from Path of Exile, which I thought was pretty fun, which is Ball Lightning. It's a skill that deals damage around. Also, this is the first skill that doesn't allow multiple projectiles. So if you have multiple projectiles on your gear, this is only ever gonna shoot one. So this is another type of skill and behavior that I implemented. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so for the next skill type, I'm gonna showcase this boss. So now I haven't finished this boss, at least the sprites. However, I just wanna showcase the special interactions of the skills that it has. So this is what I call triggered skills, or skills that activate other skills. So this boss has 2 attacks. One of them is a flame orb that spawns at a location and deals fire damage. And the second attack is a barrage projectiles that are targeted at a location. So what happens is that if the orb gets hit by the barrage of the same entity, they can detonate, and that can trigger another skill. In this case, an explosion. So I'm gonna spawn this boss here, and I'm gonna be pausing in order to showcase the how it works. So this boss, you can see, it shoot a barrage and then immediately spawned the orb, which caused it to explode. So let me move a little bit in order to showcase this better. So you can see it spawns the orb here. The barrage, of course, has a minimum distance, meaning that it's not gonna shoot the barrage unless I'm a certain distance away. You can see there it shot it. Let me get close to one of the orbs. You can see there it activates the orb when I get closer. So a cool thing about these special skills is that they act like normal skills, which means they can have the properties of any other normal skill, which means I can actually make so that the orbs themselves can trigger other orbs, or special skills can trigger other special skills. So let me see if I can showcase this here. We're a little difficult because, of course, I need to be at a certain distance. So you can see there that the boss, the explosion from one of the orbs actually triggers a secondary effect. It triggers the other explosion. So that's the special skills. Basically, skills that spawn more skills when they are hit or interact with other skills. I thought that was a pretty cool way to implement skills for bosses mainly, but of course this can also work for players in the future. So that's one of the bosses. So let me now showcase you the minion skills, which are the last type of skill that I implemented, which is probably the thing that I took the longest. But let's get into it. Okay, so lastly, let's talk about minion skills. So minion skills, I have two types, which are permanent ones and temporary ones. So temporary minions, like this summon skeleton skill, it only costs mana, but they are temporary, of course. They die after the duration, and they do not persist between loads and between entering the dungeon and whatnot. So all minions now scale with the caster level. So if you are level 100, all of your minions are gonna be level 100 as well. The way I balance that is that I can add any number of custom modifiers. You can see this skeleton as a minus 35% damage penalty. That penalty, of course, is gonna be less and less as you level the skill brand. So they're gonna grow stronger every level. I can balance any modifier, by the way, and the entities, their life, their speed, basically anything. So it's a pretty cool way to balance the numbers of minions until they feel right. So this is the summon skeleton skill. I think I showcased this before. You try to summon a new one when the maximum is reached, it's gonna kill the oldest one. All minions also teleport to you when they are too far. And of course, they're gonna die when their duration runs out. So those are the temporary minions. These ones, of course, you're gonna summon when you are about to fight. So now let's talk about the permanent ones, which is the new type of minion that I implemented. So just like with the auras, permanent minions are gonna stay with you even if you change character or exit the game or enter and exit the dungeon. And they're gonna cost willpower to maintain. So let's summon this golem. So each golem is gonna cost 4 willpower to summon, and you can have 2. Do you see that I have these 2 golems here? Of course, I haven't finished the sprite, but all the animations are complete. So these golems have 3 attacks at the moment. They have a melee attack. They have a lip slam engage, so they're gonna jump to the target when they're far away. And they also have a slam attack, which is an area of effect attack. So now I'm gonna showcase you fighting them with some skeletons, level 100 skeletons. Now, of course, they're probably gonna get killed because I have no gear to boost their stats, and they're level 7. Also, I'm gonna be running because I'm level 100, but I have no gear on. So I'm gonna get one shot by those skeletons. You can see they're dying pretty quickly. The moment they die, I regain my willpower back. However, you see that one of those golems was resummoned immediately when it died. You can see when the cooldown ends, what the minion goes back to life. You can see that I almost died there from one of those skeletons. and they do a pretty good job. You can see the leap attack there, and the slam, and their melee attacks. Of course, the more modifiers you have to improve your minions, the better they're gonna be. They're gonna be faster and just dealing more damage. So now, let me know what you think about this minion system and about the skill system in general. Of course, all of this is if you remove the skill, whatever any of the skills, you're gonna get your willpower back and your auras. Let's say I turn this aura on, which grant me some resistances, and I can have one of the golems. You can see the golem being affected by the aura as well. If I remove the aura is gone. If I remove the golem is gone. So you can see that I really put a lot of effort into making these minions some quality of life, so you're not annoyed by having minions. So you can summon your golem and you can remove it from the bar because you don't need to keep resummoning them. They're gonna resummon automatically. Also, when you exit, everything is gonna be there still. The same amount that you had. So yeah, let me know what you think. Join my Discord if you have some new ideas or some feedback for the game. Please like and subscribe, and see you on the next update. It's probably gonna be about monsters. I need to upgrade the monsters, the modifiers on the monsters that can cast auras and better skills and whatnot. And after that, I think it's just the skill enhancement system, which I postponed, of course, because I had to get this done first. But now that it's done, I'm gonna be able to modify the skills a little bit more, so it's gonna be more customization for the player. And I think I'm pretty close to actually finishing the main features of my game, which means it's gonna be content phase, a lot of monsters, a lot of new tile sets, effects, sound effects, changing the player sprite probably. Yeah, I think that's all. See you on the next update, and take care.